Today we will be addressing one of the most controversial and important topics for the future is the digital euro.
Digital euro is a very important thing even for the people who maybe don't see it as a possible threat right now, because we are not talking only about the finance and financial issue, about the economic issue. We are talking about the possible loss of rights and freedoms for all the population in the European Union. And this is a very important topic because I think most of the people, if not all, wants to live free life and wants to have freedoms and the rights in their personal life.
According to research, 3 out of 4 people are not even aware that at the moment this procedure is going on.
When you create this kind of currency, which is in control of unelected not politician, bureaucrats in the European Central Bank, who will have a right to decide what we can do with our money, because they will be in control of our money. They will not have any kind of physical appearance. You will not be able to exchange them for the physical money, for the cash. Then you are giving to some unelected officials extreme big power above or on your life. They can decide if they will make it programmable, which I believe and I'm for sure they will make in future. They will, for example, decide what we can buy and what we are not able to buy. Or, for example, how much of certain things we will be able to buy. And this is a big and extreme threat, because we have a lot of proofs. We have a lot of experiences with globalists, for example, from World Economic Forum, who are speaking openly and promoting this idea of cashless society, which can move us toward more sustainability. But I think this will move us only towards more totality.
And control. And I think one very key point is that it's happening almost behind the scenes, because we are here with you in the European Parliament, but how much talk do we have about the digital euro? Almost nothing. Right at this moment, there is a legal tender that's going on. The European Commission wants to choose a company that will technically prepare the infrastructure and already launched a tender over 1 billion euros.
When you have bitcoins in this decentralized currency, which nobody owns, nobody is in control of them, and there is a limited amount of that currency. But when you compare it with the central bank digital currency, which will be in full control of the bureaucrats who will decide how much of that currency will exist, which kind of value it will have, and what you can do or can't do with your own money, and they will be in control of your personal account, which will be absolutely relied on their decisions, and we are talking about totalitarian control of the unelected people of our lives. And we know very well, if there is some possibility to misuse some kind of power, it will be misused. History teaches us it completely and correctly.
So the European Central Bank says that the digital euro will never be programmable money. But then they put in the tender that they will allow the service provider of payments to set limits on where, how this secure code can be used, like only at certain shops. This is something that's outrageous, because isn't it the ECB system that makes the money programmable according to the tender? This is what they're going to put as a condition. I'm not very convinced that they will not use it at the next possible occasion, like the next pandemic or the next self-proclaimed crisis, because why put it as a condition in the technical infrastructure if you never plan to use it?
We saw a lot of time in the past how the European Commission was completely fulfilling the agenda of the World Economic Forum, especially during the pandemic times you mentioned before. And the promotional materials of the World Economic Forums are speaking about exactly this case you mentioned and opened. They are speaking that our current times are facing the big climate change and we are in big threat for the future. So we need to impose some kind of measures, and their measures are aiming to lowering the consumption rate of the consumers. That means they want to control what the people are buying and what they're spending their money on. And they are talking in very certain ways and certain examples how they want to achieve that. A lot of banks, private companies have imposed to the accounts of the people these CO meters, these ability of measuring how much emissions you produce by your consumer behavior, and they want to make limits for us how much, for example, fuel for our car can we buy, how much, for example, meat can we buy, how much of different products can we buy, because they said they are emission-intensive products, their production is energy-intensive, and they want to limit our behavior. And as we saw, for example, on the last scandal of the former leader of World Economic Forum, they don't want these kind of measures for their own personal life.
How can we trust somebody who is always making steps that are actually completely contradictory to their initial intentions?
I was, as a member of the national parliament in Slovakia, very active in my effort to change the constitution, that we will have a right for cash and cash payments, to cash existence of the cash money in the constitution. Right now, the Slovakia is the only one country in the European Union which has written in the constitution that we have right for cash. And I am really glad we were successful in this kind of movement. But then the ECB, European Central Bank, came and sent a letter to Slovakia that we need to change our constitution because we don't have a right to have something like that in our constitution. And there was immediately a question which arose: why would the European Central Bank be against the right to cash in the constitution of a member country of the European Union if they are in favor of this right? They said openly that they are not in favor of cashless society, but then when some of the country will bring something like that in the constitution, they said we are not permitted to do something like that, and we should change that. Otherwise, they said it openly, we will be fined by them because we as a country don't have this right to have this written in the constitution. Why? What other explanation can exist that they want to impose cashless society on us in the future?